So this question is called double marginalization, and the story is there's two firms. One firm is an upstream firm, and it's selling engines to a downstream firm, which then takes the engines, makes a car, and sells cars to the final customer. And it tells us the inverse demand from the final customer is P equals 10 minus 0.5Q. And it gives us the marginal cost of each firm. Well, double marginalization, first of all, marginalization, that is profit margins. So when we have a double profit margin, the scenario is there's two firms in the supply chain. The upstream firm makes a profit, the downstream firm then makes a profit, and this hurts everybody. It's bad for total industry profit, we have a lower quantity sold, and customers pay a higher price for the car. So we see this in real life. That's why you want to create a firm. You want Toyota to own the whole supply chain. You want them to own the tires, the engines, all the assembly, everything, because it ends up having lower prices for customers. The industry is better off, they make a higher profit, and there's more quantity sold. So I'm going to draw a little diagram to help us understand what's going on. With one firm, we have just one firm selling cars to the customers. With two firms, we have an upstream firm. Again, they're selling the engines to a downstream firm, which is then assembling them and selling cars to the customers. So the problem arises because one firm is making their one profit. They have one profit margin. With two firms, the upstream firm makes a profit margin and the downstream firm makes a profit margin, and that is the problem of double marginalization. So we're going to solve through that. In this question, it's only asking us the difference between the price, but it could, again, ask us the difference between the quantity sold. It could ask us the difference between total industry profit. So just be aware of that. Well, first let's start with one firm. One firm, we're just going to set margin revenue equal to marginal cost, which is the same thing as writing out our profit function, taking the derivative of it, and setting it equal to 0. And we do that, and we solve for Q in this case to be equal to 4. So again, we need to find the price, so we go back to our inverse demand, plugging in 4, and we see that the price, when there is just one firm, is $8 per car. So with two firms, this is when we have the double marginalization. This is very crucial that you start with a downstream firm, which you'll kind of see that you have to start with a downstream firm because we're only given the inverse demand for cars themselves, which, just think about it, goods flow downstream to get to customers. So the upstream firm is the highest in the supply chain, flowing downstream, and then at the end of the stream, we have the customers. Think about it like that. So the downstream firm, we know their inverse demand. We want to solve for their marginal cost a little differently because we know it's not just 4 plus 2. So remember, the story was the upstream firm is going to make a profit and sell their engines for more than $2 to the downstream firm. So we have 4 plus some price of the engine, we'll just call it PU, the price that the upstream firm charges the downstream firm. So we can write profit and solve for, well, what we're going to do is we're not going to solve for an actual quantity, we're going to solve for an inverse demand of the upstream firm. We're going to solve for PU. So we set that derivative equal to 0, and we solve, and we see that PU is going to be equal to 6 minus Q. So now we can find the upstream firm's total profit and see what quantity of engines they'll supply to the downstream firm, because we know their marginal cost is just a number, it is just 2, so we can solve. We write profit, we can take the derivative with respect to Q and solve for Q in this case to be equal to 2. So real fast, just think about it. If the upstream firm is selling 2 engines to the downstream firm, which means the downstream firm is demanding 2 engines from the upstream firm, it must be that they're selling 2 cars. So quantity here literally stands for 2 engines, but that's going to be the same as 2 cars because each engine goes in a car. So we can plug in this 2 into our inverse demand from the customers to find the price the customers pay. And in this case, we see that to be $9. So again, he's just asking us the difference between the 2 firm scenario price and the 1 firm scenario price. So that's the difference between $9 and $8.